Ryudo was a gutless wimp who wasted his life watching his crush from the shadows. However, everything changed when he was forced to confess to her after losing a bet which unlocked her chamber of secrets. It all began with Ryudo watching Runa talk to her friends Nicole and Akari like an obsessed, love-struck fool. He felt lucky to have been put in the same class as her because now he would have more mental images for his daily wank sessions. As he watched her and blushed like an idiot, he overheard three irrelevant NPCs discussing how they wished to date Runa. The three somehow believed they were important to the story and had a shot at dating Runa. According to one of them, Runa changed boyfriends like she changed her wardrobe because she could never be satisfied cleaning one pipe for too long. Ryudo wasn't surprised by what they said because he'd been hearing it since their first year, and frankly, he didn't care much about it. He didn't see the need since a down-bad loser like him would never in a million years get the chance to befriend Runa. As this thought crossed his mind, he realized that the only people he talked to at school were his fellow geek brothers, Nishina and Ichiki. Just then, Runa appeared before him and asked if she could borrow his pencil, which surprised him. While she used the pencil, he noticed that her melons were dying to make an appearance. His dirty mind wished they would, but his rationality took over and he shook his head to get rid of those thoughts. When Runa finished with his pencil, she thanked him and gave it back to him with a smile that made him fall for her all over again. The next day, during lunch, while they discussed the video game livestream they had watched the previous day, their conversation soon shifted to their upcoming tests, causing the boys to feel gloomy because their parents could revoke their gaming privileges if they failed. Ryudo tried to assure them everything would be fine, but the boys didn't trust his words since his grades were always good. This led them to declare that whoever had the highest grades after the tests had to do whatever the person with the lowest grade said. A few days later, they received their graded papers, and as you might have expected, Fat Dog Ejichi had the lowest grades. Since Ryudo had the highest grades, they reminded him of their agreement, and Ejiki said his punishment was to confess his feelings to the girl he liked. This was because they wanted Ryudo to know what it meant to hit rock bottom, and what better way to make that happen than to have him get brutally rejected by a baddie. Ryudo tried to reason with them, but they refused and insisted he do it. Having no choice, Ryudo left a note in Runa's shoe locker, asking her to meet him behind the school building after classes. While he waited for her, Loser 1 and Loser 2 hid behind some bushes to watch his humiliation. Runa soon arrived, looking like the reincarnation of Aphrodite, and asked Ryudo what he wanted to discuss with her, making him feel nervous. However, even though he stuttered a bit and almost crapped his pants, he managed to blurt out that he liked her. To her credit, Runa didn't look at Ryudo like he was a disgusting piece of trash and even asked what he liked about her. Ryudo shyly replied that he liked that she was cute, which she didn't expect him to say, so she blushed. When she didn't say anything for a while, Ryudo braced himself for her rejection, but was surprised when she said she would love to date him. Her reason was that she was free at the moment, so why not? Ryudo wondered if he was dreaming and told himself that if he was, he would never want to wake up again. On another note, Ejichi and Nishina fainted from shock after witnessing the start of Ryudo's relationship with the hottest baddie in school. As the new couple began walking home together, Ryudo's heart nearly burst out of his chest because of how fast it beat. He was afraid she was going to admit that she was messing with him, and had only said yes to him so he could feel desired for the first time in his pathetic life. However, Runa didn't do that and happily talked to him like they weren't total strangers half an hour ago. Tired of drowning in uncertainty, Ryudo asked Runa why she agreed to go out with a first-class reject like him. He told her he knew she didn't like him as she only learned about his existence when she received his note. Runa pointed out that he also didn't know much about her. However, she added that she liked him a little, which surprised him, so he asked what she meant by that. Runa explained that she liked him because he liked her, which honestly made her sound like a dumb broad, and left him wondering if that was why people believed she was easy. Ryudo tried to explain himself, but she cut him off, saying she had some self-respect, and would never say yes to a guy who grew out his fingernails or didn't wipe his sweaty lips. However, she added that it was nice to hear someone say, "I like you," even if they were as ugly as a baboon's red bone. This made Ryudo say that liking someone for that reason was shallow, but Runa told him it didn't matter. As far as she was concerned, even if two people began dating for shallow reasons, they would eventually grow to like one another after spending so much time together. Unfortunately, she'd never been lucky enough to date anyone to the point where she began falling for them. Surprised, Ryudo asked why, and she explained that even though she was more faithful than Zeus, her relationships only lasted as long as your one-minute boyfriend. When they arrived at her house later, Runa invited him inside, saying her parents weren't home. Ryudo was nervous when they got to her bedroom, as it was the first time he'd ever been in a girl's room. Runa excused herself to get them drinks, leaving Ryudo alone in the room to snoop around. At first, he didn't want to, but like a cat, his curiosity got the best of him. As he glanced around, he noticed one of her drawers slightly opened and felt compelled to see inside. Just as he began to pull it open, Runa walked in, startling him and causing him to stub his toe on the dresser. Luckily, she didn't suspect anything and apologized for leaving the drawer ajar. She then pulled out a dress from the top, leaving him relieved that it hadn't been her underwear drawer he went snooping in. Eventually, Runa took one of the drinks and sat on her bed, telling Ryudo to do the same, but he hesitated. While he stared at her like an idiot and contemplated doing as she asked, Runa assumed it was for another reason. She then asked if he wanted to shower, which was a strange question, so he kept staring at her. When she unbuttoned her shirt, Ryudo felt his mini sausage rise. As he watched, he wondered how much of a handful her milk jugs were. He also wondered if that was the day he'd finally see what a girl's cave of wonder looked like. However, he asked her to stop what she was doing to ensure he wasn't getting her signals mixed. Runa confirmed that she was undressing so they could get their freak on, and asked if he didn't want to do it. Ryudo assured that he wanted nothing more than to go into her chamber of secrets, but pointed out that it was too soon in their relationship for that to happen. Runa was genuinely surprised by his response, as her past boyfriends were always ready to jump her bones whenever they were alone. She believed her duty was to give it to her boyfriend whenever he asked, so he wouldn't leave her for someone else. This made Ryudo realize that Runa's past boyfriends broke up with her because they got bored after hitting it a few times. It made him sick to think that all they wanted was her body, proving that some men were indeed low-life scums who only thought with their upside-down heads. Determined to be different, he told her they would only make plot when she was ready and had genuine feelings for him. However, as she escorted him down the road, he couldn't help but feel like he'd missed out on a lifetime opportunity by refusing her offer to develop plot. That is until she admitted that he was different from her exes, and said she looked forward to seeing how their relationship played out. The following day at school, Ryudo met his friends on the rooftop and informed them that he had turned down Runa's plot-making offer when they asked how things went with her. This made the boys call him a dim-witted fool and asked if he wasn't tired of overworking his right hand. Ryudo argued that it was because he needed to prepare, so Ichiki lectured him on how it was common knowledge for guys to walk around with a rubber in their pockets. Ryudo said he was referring to his emotional preparedness, making the boys ask if he was some sort of virtuous maiden. They pointed out that an unpopular, aesthetically repulsive goblin like him was stupid for passing up his only chance to smash. Ryudo assured them he would get another chance to dip his stick in Runa's honeypot, but the boys didn't think so. They told him he had to be the most delusional person on earth if he truly believed that someone like Runa would keep dating a risless simp like him. When Ryudo returned to class, Runa approached him excitedly and began telling him about the dream she had the previous night. As Ryudo listened to her, he overheard their classmates talking about him, making him feel uncomfortable as they were mocking his reaction to Runa speaking to him. To make matters worse, he noticed Runa's best friend, Nicole, giving him a death glare. Scared, he gave Runa an excuse about having an assignment to finish and then ran off. As the days passed, Runa started talking to him more at school, which earned him menacing glares from their classmates, especially Nicole. Eventually, he couldn't take it anymore, so he called Runa to a quiet place and asked if she'd told anyone about their relationship. She replied that she only told Nicole since they were besties, and asked if he'd told anyone, to which he replied that he'd told Ichichi and Nishina. He then told her that he didn't like all the attention he got whenever she talked to him, and suggested they talk outside school or hang out on weekends to make up for lost time. When Runa heard the word weekend, she assumed it was so they could go on a date, so she told him she was free that Saturday. That night, while Ryudo tried to search online for places he could take Rina on their date, she FaceTimed him to ask where they were going for their date. Ryudo began ad-libbing and said something about the movies, but when Runa asked what movie he had in mind, he couldn't respond. She then asked why he'd asked her out on a date, and he said it was because he wanted to get to know her better. He admitted that he had nothing planned for their date and said he wouldn't mind doing anything she wanted. That was the first time a guy had ever said something like that to Runa, which made her happy, so she promised to show him the things she liked on their date. When she hung up, this dumb idiot began to wonder if she was going to take him to a hotel to take his cherry. He got his answer on Saturday when she took him to the mall, because she wanted to shop till she dropped. Ryudo felt out of place in the shops they visited, but he endured it because he liked watching Runa shop. A few hours later, they finished shopping, went to a cafe for ice cream, and talked. Runa asked Ryudo if he had fun, and he said he did since he could watch her and learn what she liked. Like a true simp, he admitted that seeing her happy made him happy, so he didn't mind that she dragged him around the mall the entire day. Just then, Runa received a call from Nicole, who asked how her date was going. When Ryudo heard that was the question Nicole asked, he panicked as he was sure Nicole was against Runa going out with a pathetic loser like him. He soon began to worry that Runa would get tired of his scrawny little ass and dump him for someone built like Toji. By the next day, the feeling intensified because he texted Runa, and she didn't reply. As far as he knew, Runa was always with her phone, so if she didn't respond to his text messages, it was because she was ghosting him. To make things worse, Homeboy started imagining Runa with someone else, so to distract himself, he watched a live stream from his favorite gamer TN. The next day, when Ryudo got home from school, he received a text from Runa, asking him to come to the park by the station. The first thought that came to his mind was that she would break up with him. On his way to the park, he tried to convince himself that he was fine if she wanted to end things. However, he low-key regretted that he didn't park his truck in her little garage. Finally, he arrived at the park and attempted to give Runa a speech on how grateful he was that she even considered dating a social reject like him in the first place. Before he could get the words out, Runa showed him her new phone case. She began talking animatedly about how she had to stand in line to get it since it was a limited edition and could only be bought one per person. When she produced another phone case similar to hers from her bag and gave it to him, Ryudo was surprised. He asked how she got it since it was only sold one per person, and she told him that she asked Nicole to wait in line with her. She also told him that her battery died while waiting in line, so she saw his message when she got home. As she talked about how excited she'd been to surprise him with her gift, she noticed Ryudo was quiet and asked if he didn't like the gift. Ryudo told her that he loved the gift and admitted that he'd been scared she wanted to end things with him. He said her surprise made him happy and proved it by shedding a few happy tears. After collecting himself, the two began walking home with their matching phone cases. It was then that Runa told him she had bought him the case for their 1-week anniversary, which surprised him as he didn't think celebrating the first week of a relationship was a thing. He apologized when she said his initial reaction to the gift had worried her. He explained that his fear of getting dumped had gotten the best of him, and finally revealed why he was always on edge about their relationship. He had confessed his feelings to the girl he liked in middle school, but the girl had rejected and friend-zoned him. After that happened, he lost his confidence and rizzing abilities, so he stayed away from girls. Runa asked him to be grateful to his former crush, because he would have never bagged her if she hadn't rejected him. Ryudo told her it didn't matter because middle school love didn't last long, but Runa said it wasn't true. She revealed that her parents fell in love in middle school and married after high school. Just as she said she wanted to experience that kind of love, a sports car drove past them, drawing their attention. Runa commented that it was a cool car, and without thinking, Ryudo started nerding out, telling her about the car's features. He soon realized what he was doing when he noticed Runa had zoned out, so he apologized for rambling. Runa told him she was impressed by how knowledgeable he was about cars. She then compared herself to a sports car, saying she raced ahead because she wanted to be like her parents. Her desperation to become an adult quickly was why she had so much experience with dating. However, living on the fast lane never helped her, and neither did it help her parents because they got a divorce a few years after their marriage. When she began talking about how immature and slow-witted she was, Ryudo asked her not to badmouth herself. He said that aside from being fast, sports cars were created to make the ride fun. He used her friendships and relationships to drive his point home, and added that he liked sports. This brought a smile back to Runa's face, and she declared that she would keep living her best life because YOLO. After that, she challenged Ryudo to a race and took off running. The next day, the homeroom teacher introduced a new student to the class. The new classmate was Maria, the girl Ryudo liked in middle school. Ryudo couldn't believe his eyes, as this sudden plot twist wasn't on his bingo card for that year. However, it didn't matter since he now had a girlfriend and was sure Maria couldn't remember him. Or so he thought, because after Maria was placed in the seat next to him and the teacher left the classroom, She asked if he was the boy she had known 3 years ago. Ryuno confirmed that she was, making Maria happy that she had a familiar face around. Ryudo, on the other hand, wasn't happy and decided it was best to keep his distance from her to avoid temptations. When classes were over that day, Ryudo snuck out of class like a thief to avoid being seen by Maria. As soon as he shut the door behind him, Nicole suddenly appeared in front of him. Her resting face caused him to panic, so he fearfully asked what she wanted with him, and she said she wanted to talk. They went to a nearby burger place where she asked if he knew Runa's birthday was the next Sunday. Upon seeing the look of surprise on his face, she got angry and demanded to know if he was serious about Runa. Ryudo swore that he was, but she argued that if he were, he would have known about her birthday, stating that was one of the first things he should have asked Runa when they started dating. Ryudo quickly apologized for being a useless boyfriend, so she calmed down and said he must celebrate Runa's birthday. She then got up to leave, but he begged her to stay because he wanted her to tell him what Runa liked. Nicole told him to ask Runa, but he explained that he wanted to surprise her the way she surprised him for their anniversary. Nicole thought about it for a few seconds and agreed to stay, but someone took pictures of them from outside as she sat down. As Ryudo arrived at the train station the following day, he was surprised to see Runa waiting for him. When he asked why she was there, she told him she came because she wanted to talk to him about something. She then showed him messages from a group chat where a picture of him and Nicole was posted, and asked if he was two-timing her with her best friend. Instead of saying yes or no, he asked if she was free that Sunday as he wanted to celebrate her birthday with her. Runa stared at him with her mouth wide as she couldn't believe she'd gotten mixed up with a low-budget playboy. However, she quickly shut it when he mentioned that Nicole had told him about her birthday, making her realize that they had met for that reason. She then apologized for indirectly calling him a womanizing pig, after which she left for school. When Sunday finally came, Ryudo surprised Runa by taking her to a shopping district named Harajuku. Nicole had told him that Runa would be beyond happy if he took her there, and he was glad that he listened. They then went to a bubble tea shop because Ryudo remembered Nicole telling him Runa loved it. After getting her a drink, Runa asked Ryudo how much he paid for it so she could reimburse him, but he told her it was his treat. While she drank her bubble tea, he pulled out a chart and asked what she thought about the drink. You see, he visited every bubble tea shop in the area that week and tasted every flavor of bubble tea he could stomach to pick the one that had the best. Runa then told him her tea was good and asked why he was writing in the chart, but he ignored her question and began talking about the different flavors of bubble tea she could try out. He soon shut up when he realized Runa's mind was lost in space as her pea-sized brain couldn't comprehend what he was saying. When Runa snapped out of her daze, she asked Ryudo if he loved bubble tea so much that he learned about them. Ryudo admitted that he'd learned about it because Nicole told him she loved drinking bubble tea, and he wanted her to taste the best ones. Runa was surprised he'd gone through all that trouble for her, but thanked him because he was the first person to do something like that for her. For the rest of their date, they visited most of the bubble tea shops Ryudo had on his chart, and by the time they got to the last one, Ryudo was full of liquid. Runa offered him a sip from her drink, and after he drank from the straw, she took the cup back and drank from it. She then told him it was an indirect kiss, causing him to turn red like a tomato while she laughed. Despite this, Ryudo was happy that he spent the day with his girlfriend. Later that evening, as they walked home, they spotted a couple exchanging gifts, making Ryudo remember he had yet to give Runa her gift. He pulled out his wallet, but when he looked inside, he was disappointed because he'd spent all his money and was left with only 1,000 yen. He apologized to Runa and explained that he had wanted to buy her something she wanted, but he couldn't do that now because he was out of cash. Runa surprised him by taking his chart and saying she wanted it as her present, since he'd made it because of her. She promised to handle it carefully so they could use it another time they went on a bubble tea date, and thanked him for making her birthday memorable. The next day, when Ryudo arrived at school, he'd heard rumors that Runa always made her boyfriend splurge on their dates, and after that, she'd dump his ass for the next available ATM. Since these rumors differed from those he was used to, Ryudo wondered who was spreading them. During lunch break, Ryudo was on the rooftop with Ichichi and Nishina when Nicole showed up. Ichichi and Nishina ran for the hills when they saw the menacing Garu, making her wonder what she did to deserve such a reaction. However, she chose to ignore them and told Ryudo that she had heard from Runa that their date went well. Ryudo said it was because of her and thanked her, but Nicole said she didn't come to be thanked. She asked if he'd heard the rumors, and he told her he had, but swore he wasn't responsible for them. Nicole said she knew he didn't have the balls to do that, but stated that she was pissed someone did it. After school that day, Maria suddenly began talking about the rumors she heard about Runa. She told Ryuto that one of Runa's exes was her friend, and he had told her that Runa led him on throughout their relationship and always expected him to pay for their dates. Ryuto defended Runa, saying what her ex said was a liar, and then asked Maria if she had started the rumors. Maria acted all cute and did that thing where people pretended they had made a mistake even though they were fully conscious of their decision. However, she told him that people had the right to know the kind of person Runa was, so she wasn't wrong for telling people what she knew. When she kept saying bad things about Runa, Ryuto angrily told her to shut her lying mouth and said Runa was the opposite of everything she said. His voice caught the attention of those in class, but Maria didn't care and asked if Ryuto knew who Runa's boyfriend was since he spoke like he knew him. Ryuto didn't want to say anything, but she kept pushing until he got mad and blurted out that he was Runa's boyfriend, shocking everyone. Those who heard said Ryuto was pathetic and delusional for lying about something like that, but Runa told them it was true, making them say she had the heart of a saint, because that was what was required to like someone with a face even his mother couldn't love. Since they had heard Ryuto defending Runa earlier, they concluded that all the rumors were true, despite what Lizzo said. Annoyed, Maria ran out of the classroom, but Ryuto followed her and demanded to know why she had spread lies about Runa. Maria said it was because she wanted to be number one and couldn't afford to let an airheaded like Runa take anything else from her. The most shocking part was when she revealed that she was Runa's twin sister and said they were fraternal twins. Ryuto pointed out that their last names differed, so she explained that after their parents divorced, she took her mother's last name and left town with her. They only moved back to live with her grandfather because her mother got divorced again. She then admitted that she wished she wasn't Runa's sister because she'd lived in her shadow since they were kids. According to her, Runa was the attention seeker and got everyone in the family to spoil her rotten, while she had trouble expressing herself. When their parents split, Maria was the one who left with her mother and had to change her name, making her conclude that she would never be happy unless she became as lovable as Runa. She told Ryuto that she returned with that determination, but sadly she was still second best to Runa. After listening to her villain origin story, Ryuto said what she did was wrong, but added that he understood how she felt. Maria told him to cut the bullshit and stop pretending like she wasn't as despicable as Crew, but Ryuto stood his ground. He said she was like him, insecure and unable to express her feelings, but secretly worried that those around her hated her. He told her that forcing herself to act like Runa, who was extroverted and outgoing, would be the worst thing she could do to herself. He advised her to be herself, so that when the date came that she found someone to love, he would truly appreciate her. His words resonated with her, but she tried acting like she didn't care and tried to back away. Unfortunately, she lost her footing and would have tumbled down the stairs if Ryuto wasn't there to help her. Instead of thanking him, Maria turned away and asked him to leave because she wanted to be alone, so he did. Nicole and Runa came out of the classroom when he got to the door, and to his surprise, Nicole told him he was cool for defending Runa's honor. She then bid the couple farewell since she had to get to her part-time job. Runa and Ryuto also left school, and as they walked to the train station, Runa asked Ryuto if he was okay with everyone knowing about their relationship. He told her he wasn't, explained that he'd revealed their relationship because he was tired of people getting the wrong idea about her. Surprised by his words, Runa started crying and saying she never expected anyone to stand up for a dumb like her. She then brought up the topic of that lying brat Maria and asked if Maria had told him about their family connection. He said yes, so Runa apologized for not telling him before, saying the timing wasn't right and that things between her and her sister were strained. Despite this, she smiled and told Ryuto that her sister was the best, but he didn't comment on her statement. Runa then asked if he believed the rumors about her and he said no, so she asked how he was sure she wasn't like that in the past. Ryuto told her that he didn't care about her past because he liked the person she was in the present. This seemed to lift Runa's spirit, but because she was too nice for her own good, she couldn't help but think of Maria, wondering why her sister had moved back. Speaking of Maria, she was still on the staircase where Ryuto left her, trying to convince herself that he hadn't rizzed his way into her heart and made her fall for him. The following day after school, Ryuto and Runa went to a low-budget Burger King, and as they ate, Runa asked him to tell her what he liked because she wanted to get to know him better. Ryuto told her he liked to watch live streams of games, after which he started rambling about his favorite live streamer, the games he played, and a bunch of other geek-coded stuff that flew right over Runa's head. He quickly apologized when he realized he was overwhelming her rickety old brain with things it couldn't comprehend. Runa then asked if she could watch one of the streams, so he pulled out his phone and they began watching. Well, Runa watched while Ryudo kept staring at her lips, hoping he could kiss her. This feeling remained, so when he went to school the next day, he told his friends about his plight. The boys didn't hide their jealousy and advised him to give up, saying he was an idiot to think he was worthy of putting his crusty-ass lips on Runa's perfect ones. Ryudo agreed that kissing Runa out of the blue would be weird, so he decided to settle for holding her hands first. Later, he invited Runa on a date to Ueno Park that weekend, and she told him she couldn't wait to go. The weekend finally arrived, and as planned, Ryudo and Runa went on their date at the park. The first thing they did was eat the bento Runa prepared, and when they were done eating, Ryudo suggested they ride the boats. Since Ryudo's goal was to hold Runa's hand, he believed he'd get the chance to do it when helping her get on the boat. The opportunity never came because Runa got on and off the boat by herself, which made him feel like a failure. As they walked around the park, Runa talked about how she loved the park, but Ryudo hardly responded. He was lost in thought, thinking about how badly he wanted to hold her hand, but because he was another synonym for wimp, he didn't dare to make a move. Runa soon noticed his expression and assumed he was that way because he wanted to end things with her. When she voiced this, Ryudo swore he had no intention of breaking up with her, and said he'd been thinking about how he wanted to ride the boat again. Runa said she was down for it, but insisted they ride a different boat before running off to the boat rental place. After making the payment, Ryudo got in the rowboat first and extended his hand for Runa to take. Once she got on the boat, he rowed them out into the lake, and as he rowed, Runa surprised him by saying she'd been thinking about holding his hand. Ryudo told her he'd also been thinking about the same thing, so she approached him. However, instead of taking his hand like he thought she would, she kissed him, which surprised him. After they returned the boat, Ryudo helped Runa off the boat, and she refused to let go of his hand. At the same time, Maria was at home trying to study, but she kept replaying what happened on the staircase between her and Ryudo in her head. She tried to push the feelings that emerged aside, but it didn't work, so she decided to steal Ryudo from Runa. A few days later, Ryudo helped Runa study for an English test at the upgraded Krusty Krab. On their way home later, she reminded him that their 1-month anniversary was coming up and suggested they spend the day at the beach. At the mention of the word beach, an image of Runa dressed in a swimsuit flashed in Ryudo's mind. Runa had to call his name to get his attention back, and when she did, he told her he couldn't wait to go to the beach. Later that week, Runa showed Ryudo her graded English paper and thanked him for helping her study for the test. Unknown to them, jealous Maria watched them while they talked about their trip. Later, she waited outside the boys' bathroom for Ryudo, and when he came out, she asked if he could be her tutor. Ryudo turned her down, saying he promised to tutor Runa, so he couldn't help. Not wanting to take a simple hint, Maria asked if he could tutor her during the summer holiday. Still, Ryudo politely turned her down and suggested that she ask Ichichi to tutor her instead. Maria told him she didn't want Ichichi's help, and then asked for his OIME ID. Ryudo agreed to give it to her, but clarified that he wouldn't be messaging her. That weekend, as Ryudo waited for Runa to arrive at the train station, Maria texted him, asking if he'd be free to tutor her on the 23rd. Ryudo responded that he had prep school that day and couldn't help her, but she texted back asking him to let her know what day he'd be free. Before he could reply, Runa arrived, so he forgot about the text. Ryudo was blown away at the beach when he saw Runa in her swimsuit, so he thanked the plot gods for blessing an insignificant idiot like him with a goddess like her. His day got even better when Runa asked him to put some screen on her back. Touching her smooth and silky skin excited his young degenerate mind, and he forced himself not to act cultured. Unfortunately, he found it figuratively and literally hard, because Runa started making sounds that sounded a lot like happy noises. To distract himself, he began multiplying numbers in his head until he finished his task. After that, the couple enjoyed their day at the beach before settling down to have lunch and talk. Ryudo shyly complimented Runa's swimsuit, saying she could pass for a Victoria's Secret model. Runa blushed and admitted that she had gone shopping with her friends for the perfect swimsuit. Nicole even came over to her house to do her nails to match her swimsuit, after she heard Runa was going to the beach with Ryudo. When Runa raised her hands to admire her nails, they noticed a storm brewing over the water and left the beach. However, the trains weren't running because of the storm, so they called their parents to inform them that they were spending the night in that town. They got a room in an inn, and when Runa went to take a bath, Ryudo started freaking out. He wasn't sure if they would do more than sleep, so he began doing some sit-ups to get rid of those wild thoughts. Runa came in just then and saw him, so she asked if she could feel his stomach, but he said no. He then left to take a bath, and when he returned, Runa offered him some tea, but Ryudo found himself staring at her face. Runa became self-conscious and asked if she looked weird with her makeup, and he told her that she didn't, stating that she looked younger with it. Her reaction reminded him of Maria, and that was when he remembered he hadn't responded to Maria's text. Eventually, the couple lay down to sleep, and Runa asked Ryudo if he wanted to develop plot with her. Ryudo reminded her that they agreed to wait until she was ready, but she said she felt bad letting him go to bed with blue balls. He told her not to worry as he could sort himself out, and insisted that he wouldn't tangle in the with her until she genuinely wanted to do it. Runa relaxed and admitted that he was the first person she ever felt like getting intimate with, so she initiated their first kiss. She also expressed her feelings and said she was starting to like him more with each day they spent together. Ryudo was happy to hear this, so he reaffirmed that they would wait until her feelings for him had grown. This prompted her to ask why he was always so nice to her, and he told her it was because he liked her. She then requested a hug, which he gladly gave to her, and as they hugged, she told him she was looking forward to spending their next anniversary together. The next day, the weather returned to normal, so they returned home. After dropping Runa at her place, Ryudo ran into Nicole on his way home, and she invited him to have lunch at the restaurant where she worked. While they ate, she asked how things between him and Runa were going, and he told her they were going well. Nicole advised him not to mess things up and told him about Runa's 2-month barrier jinx. She explained that most of Runa's exes either cheated on her or ghosted her before their relationship got to 2 months. She said that even though Runa seemed calm, the poor girl was worried to death that history would repeat itself with Ryudo. Before Ryudo left the restaurant, Nicole made him promise not to do anything that would hurt Runa. As he continued on his way home, he received a call from Maria, but was surprised to hear Runa's voice. She told him she was at her mother's place and had talked things out with Maria. However, she called him with Maria's phone because her battery died and asked him to meet her at the school. Ryudo told her he couldn't make it because he was tired, but Runa begged him to make an exception for her, so he agreed to go. When he arrived at the school, it was already dark, but he didn't mind and headed for the storage room in the gym as she instructed. There he met Runa standing in a corner, and she surprised him by saying she wanted him to clean out her pipes. Ryudo was confused and wondered if a person's feelings could change so much within a day. Runa approached and hugged him to show him how serious she was about going to Freak Town with him. Ryudo hugged her back, but suddenly stepped back and told her that she wasn't Runa but Maria. He asked why she was pretending to be her sister, and she told him it was because she wanted to sleep with him. She even promised to keep her disguise on the entire time they were going at it, but Ryudo told her he wasn't into role-playing. Maria hugged him again and begged him to lay with her, stating that, unlike Runa, she could give him her first time because her floodgates had never been opened. Ryudo stared at her without saying a word, so she took it as a sign to continue embarrassing herself by begging him. At that point, she reeked of desperation but didn't care. She told Ryudo that she would settle for being his side piece if he chose her that one time. Feeling sorry for the pathetic girl before him, Ryudo told her to stop acting like she came from the red light district. Maria demanded to know why he didn't want her, and he said it was because he wasn't a disloyal, hormone-controlled two-timer. He also added that it wouldn't be fair to her if he only used her for her body, and advised her to have some sense of shame. Just then, they heard a security guard approaching, so they escaped through the window before the man entered the room. After leaving school, they went to a park, and as Ryudo sat beside Maria on a bench, she took off her wig. He then asked why she did what she did, and she admitted it was because she had feelings for him, which surprised him. She explained how it all happened and told him she had tried to fight the feelings, but they were too strong. The next moment, Maria started crying and said she finally understood how he felt when she rejected him. Ryudo wanted to comfort her, but he knew that if he did, it would only lead her on, so he did nothing. However, Maria wasn't ready to pass up the opportunity to be close to him, so she rested her head on his shoulder and begged him to let her remain like that until she felt better. The next day at school, another rumor spread. This time, it was about Ryudo and Maria. Ejichi and Ashina were the ones who told Ryudo about it, and even showed him the picture that was being circulated. When Maria arrived, Ryudo took her to an empty classroom and asked if she was responsible for their dating rumor. Maria told him she wasn't stupid enough to start a rumor that would affect her, but apologized for dragging him into it. She promised to set the record straight and said she would block his contact so she couldn't text him. Ryudo thanked her for this and was about to leave when she stopped him to ask if she would still be his girl, as she had said yes to him back then. Suddenly they heard something fall and noticed Runa and Nicolo standing by the door. It seemed they had heard Maria's question, so Runa asked Ryudo if Maria was the girl he had confessed to in middle school. Ryudo tried to explain the situation but made the mistake of apologizing first, so Runa assumed he'd done something that warranted an apology. Maria walked away after Runa asked this, leaving Ryudo alone to face his girlfriend. Hurt by her assumptions, Runa started crying and ran off before Ryudo could stop her or explain his side of the story. When he noticed her broken phone on the floor, he tried to pick it up, but Nickel beat him to it and angrily slapped him across the face before running after Runa. The girls didn't attend the closing assembly or return to the classroom, so Ryudo didn't clear things up before going home. 2 weeks later, Ryudo sat in his prep school classroom, but his mind wasn't focused on what was being taught. He kept checking his phone to see if Runa had replied to the dozen messages he sent her, but she hadn't. Since the summer holiday began, he'd gone to her house a few times to try and speak to her, but he was too much of a spineless coward to ring the doorbell. Meanwhile, Ejichi and Nishina were at the beach in Chiba, hoping to kick off their beach episode. However, instead of engaging in the various beach activities, these idiots sat under their umbrella, watching KN's live stream. When they got hungry, they searched for a shop to buy yakisoba, but stumbled upon something else. Back at the prep school, Ryudo received a text from his friends, telling him that Runa was cheating on him. They'd also sent a picture as evidence, so Ryudo ran out of class and boarded a train to Chiba. When he arrived, he located the shop Ejichi and Nishina, told him they had seen Runa, and just like they had said, she was there. However, she wasn't with a guy but Nicole, and they were taking pictures together. Ryudo felt relieved, but before he could call out to Runa, she beckoned on the guy in the photo his friends sent to him and asked him to pose for a picture with her. Just as the guy was about to agree, he spotted Ryudo and welcomed him to the shop, thinking he was a customer. The girls were surprised when they noticed him, but Ryudo begged them to listen as he had a lot of things to explain. The girls said nothing, making the tension so thick that it could have been cut with a knife. Eventually, the guy spoke up and asked Ryudo if he was the boyfriend Runa had told him so much about. Ryudo was surprised the guy knew who he was, even more so when he introduced himself as Kurosa Mao, Runa's uncle. Ryudo was then invited into the shop, and while Mao prepared some drinks, the poorly written tsundere, Nicole, demanded to know why Ryudo had come. She tried to intimidate Ryudo with her weak-ass threats, but Mao intervened and reminded her that she had a part-time job to get to, so she left. Mao then left Ryudo and Runa alone to talk, so Ryudo took the chance to apologize for not telling Runa who Maria was to him. He also told her that Maria confessed her feelings to him the night the photo was taken, and explained everything except the part where Maria begged him to clap her cheeks. After his explanation, he apologized for making her mistrust him, but she said she was sorry for doubting his loyalty. She said what happened was nobody's fault, and added that she understood why he let Maria lean on him when she needed someone to comfort her. Their conversation then shifted to Runa, ignoring Ryudo's messages, and Runa explained that her phone was getting fixed, so she hadn't seen them yet. She assured him that she would never intentionally ignore him, and revealed that even when she believed he'd cheated on her, she still wanted to remain his girlfriend. With that said, she thanked him for coming to find her and fix things between them. That night, Runa and Mao took Runa home with them, and Runa introduced him to her grandmother, who welcomed him with open arms. Mao suggested that Ryudo use the bathroom first since he was their guest, and after he disappeared down the corridor with his mother, Runa asked Ryudo if he would stay with her for the rest of the summer. Ryudo said yes, so she told him they would work part-time at Mao's shop and spend their free time at the beach. That was how he became a worker at Mao's place, and whenever he struggled with an order, Runa was there to help him. One afternoon, when the shop was less busy, Ryudo left the assignment he was working on to save Runa from some guys who kept bugging her. When they were finally alone, Runa complained about how she hated it when sleazy womanizers like those guys tried to hit on her. Ryudo apologized for not stepping in sooner, and she told him she was glad that he did because it was better to be late than sorry. She then turned her attention to his books and teased him about being a nerd because he'd been studying every day since the holidays began. Ryudo told her he had no choice but to study because his parents had sent his books when they sent his things. Still, Runa praised his dedication and said he would get into a great college if he kept it up. She told him that Nicole wanted to become a manicurist, but because her mother was a single mom, she had to work to save money for her tuition. As for Hakari, she wanted to go to fashion school and was already working towards her goal. Ryudo asked Runa what she wanted to do after graduation, and she admitted that she didn't know what she wanted to do. The only thing she was sure of was that she had already achieved the goal she set for herself in high school. Out of curiosity, Ryudo asked what the goal was, and she said it was to develop mutual feelings with someone she thought she could spend the rest of her life with. At first, she wanted her family to reunite, but that could only happen if hell froze over, so she decided to build her own family. She felt embarrassed after telling Ryudo how she pictured her future family, but he told her not to feel that way. Later that day, when Ryudo stepped out of the bathroom, he overheard Runa asking her grandmother if they had potatoes. The old woman told her they were out of potatoes, causing her to groan in annoyance. She had wanted to prepare meat and potatoes for Ryudo, but couldn't do that as they had no potatoes. Just then, Ryudo revealed himself and Runa whined that her surprise was ruined. However, she still wanted to wow him with her 5-star Michelin dish, so she said she was going to the store. Ryudo offered to go with her, and on the way back, she took one of the shopping bags to hold his hand. When they got home, they worked together to prepare the meal, and Runa pointed out that they were acting like a married couple. This made Ryudo blush, but Runa found his reaction adorable and laughed at him. In the city, Maria arrived home and went to get a drink in the kitchen where her mother was cooking. Her mother told her that her grandmother called and asked if they were coming to visit her for the summer. She said it would be great if they visited before the summer festival, so that Maria could hang out with Runa and Ryudo. Hearing that her twin and her crush were at her grandma's place, Maria told her mother she had a prior engagement and couldn't travel. Her mother called to inform the grandmother that they wouldn't make the trip, so the old woman told Runa and Ryudo about it. As expected, the two wondered if Maria canceled the trip because she wanted to avoid them. While they did the dishes, Runa revealed that the day Maria transferred to their school was the first time she'd seen her in 2 years. She told him they had different personalities growing up, but she loved her sister dearly despite that. Even now, she wanted nothing more than to befriend Maria, but Ryudo told her that Maria still needed time before she would be ready to rekindle their sisterly relationship. Runa agreed. However, she proposed that Ryudo help her befriend Maria so they could grow closer and eventually patch things between them. Runa was so excited when she explained her plan that Ryudo promised to help her. Just then, Mao returned home and gave Runa her cell phone, which he'd picked up on the way. Runa excitedly took her phone and made Ryudo do a TikTok dance with her after responding to her text messages. A few days later, Mao handed Ryudo his paycheck, and on the way home, Ryudo stopped to buy Runa an anniversary gift. When he eventually got home later, he met Runa dressed in a flower-patterned yukata, so he complimented her outfit. Runa thanked him and told him to get dressed so they could attend the festival. At the festival, they played a few games, and while Ryudo waited in line for candy apples, Runa went to buy a ring. Sadly, the stall owner didn't have the type of ring she wanted, so she returned to Ryudo's side. After purchasing their apples, they walked towards where they intended to watch the fireworks display. On the way there, Ryudo admitted it was his first time walking around with a girl wearing a yukata. He said the last time he attended a festival, he was in elementary school and had forgotten how fun it could be. Runa's mood changed as he kept mentioning the things he got to try for the first time since they began dating. She suddenly stopped walking, so Ryudo asked what the problem was and said she wished she could experience things for the first time like him. As she spoke, she started crying and said she wanted to erase her memories so she could do things with him for the first time and enjoy it. Ryudo calmly told her that she had a lot of first experiences with him because the feelings she got while doing those things were new. The next moment, he pulled out a ring box from his pocket and presented the ring inside to her. Coincidentally, it was the same ring she'd wanted to buy earlier, and it made her happy that he bought it for her. He said it was her anniversary gift, and after he put it on her finger, he told her that from that day forward they should try doing new things together. Runa happily agreed, and as she held up her hand to admire her ring, the fireworks went off. As the happy couple watched the display, Runa moved closer to Ryudo and told him she liked him a lot. She said she wanted those feelings to keep growing, and he told her he felt the same way. Confessing their feelings during the fireworks display seemed to set off a romantic mood, so they kissed each other. A few weeks later, school resumed from the holidays, and Runa attempted to kick off her friendship plan by speaking to Maria. Unfortunately, Maria ignored her the same way your crush ignores you. She then walked out of the class before Runa could speak. Ryudo witnessed this and felt bad for Runa, so he decided to lift her spirits by inviting her and her friends to play a survival game with him and his friends that weekend. When the weekend arrived, they met at the arcade, and the girls took tons of pictures because they looked good in their combat outfits. When the girls were through, Ryudo approached them and tried to get Runa to cover her exposed belly since he didn't want his idiot friends to keep staring at her. Nicole told him to lay off and stop acting like an underdeveloped caveman, so he stopped. Akari then tried to strike up a conversation with Nishina, but the fool almost fainted when he heard her say his name, because he was surprised a top-tier baddie like her knew his name. However, he quickly recovered when Nicole addressed him Hanachichi, saying she was counting on them to win the game. Nicole teamed up with Ejichi and Nishina for the game, leaving Ryudo with Runa and Akari on his team. During the game, Ryudo moved like someone who had been in a special ops unit and easily took down the boys. He would have remained in the game if he hadn't acted like a disposable meat shield and taken a hit for Runa. Nicole then took Akari out, leaving only Runa in the game. Runa vowed to get revenge for her comrades, and she did when Nicole's gun ran out of pellets. After the match, she apologized to Ryudo for letting him get shot, but the proud simp told her it didn't matter because he would even catch a grenade for her. Before the second game, Nicole clipped her nails so she could better grip her gun and shoot with precision. She then took Ejichi's rifle and ensured she was the last one standing when the game ended. Before they left the shooting arcade, Runa asked her friends if they had seen her special earrings. She said she put it in a case inside her bag but couldn't find it, so Ryudo decided to search for it. He had yet to commence his search when Runa announced that she had found the earring inside her bag after thoroughly searching it. As she put it on, Ryudo wondered why the earring was special to her and why she only wore it on one ear. Later, Ryudo and Runa said goodbye to their friends, and since they didn't have to be anywhere urgently, Runa suggested they ride the Ferris wheel in the park. As they rode the Ferris wheel, they kissed, after which Runa rested her head on his shoulder and told him that she liked him very much. She also asked him to pat her head like she'd seen people do in the movies, and he did. On the way home later, Runa told Ryudo she was happy they were finally doing new things together. When she mentioned that they had been dating for almost 3 months, Ryudo asked what she wanted to do for their anniversary. Runa said she was done planning anniversary dates because every day she spent with him was special. Ryudo was happy when she said this, and even more so when she told him that she might be in love for the first time in her life. As he watched her run ahead, he said to himself that he wanted to keep her by his side and that he had to study hard to become someone she could count on. The next day, Ryudo was surprised to see Maria at his prep school, so he tried to avoid her by crawling on the floor to get to the door. Just as he was about to exit the class, he was stopped by Sakiya, a former student at his school. Sakiya invited him to a cafe for old time's sake, and while they conversed, Sakiya revealed that he had taken a gap year and was currently attending prep classes to prepare for the college entrance exams. When he was done talking about himself, he asked Ryudo why he'd been slithering on the floor like a snake. Ryudo explained why he did what he did and told him about his messy relationship with Maria. After hearing all he had to say, Sakiya promised to help him avoid Maria by letting him know if he saw her at the academy. The following week, the homeroom teacher asked the class to volunteer to be part of the planning committee for the upcoming cultural festival. Maria volunteered first, then Runa and Akari, who nominated Ryudo because Nicole said she had other things to do. Ryudo then nominated Ejichi because he wanted to play Cupid and help increase the fatso's chances with Akari since he had a crush on her. Ryudo, Runa and Maria were placed on the pamphlet committee, and things between them were awkward. As they looked at their previous pamphlet designs, Runa asked Maria what she liked. Maria replied that she liked to watch videos, so Runa started talking about the dance videos she'd seen recently. Maria looked at her like she'd grown a second head because she didn't know what Runa was yapping about, so Ryudo intervened. He asked Maria what sort of videos she watched, and Maria said she enjoyed watching game commentary videos. When he heard this, he asked if she knew Kien, and she said that she did. However, she didn't enjoy his streams. Ryudo tried to convince her that Kien's streams were the best, but he got carried away, forgetting that Runa was in the room. During the next committee meeting a few days later, Runa showed them some pink, sparkly pamphlets she had made. She told Ryudo and Maria that the pamphlets had to be glamorous and eye-catching since it was a festival, but Maria disagreed with her. She opened her binder with a sample of the pamphlet she believed would be better and showed it to them. She reminded Runa that the festival wasn't for girls alone, so the pamphlet's design had to be sophisticated and resemble something a unicorn barfed on. Since both girls believed their design was the best, they asked Ryudo for his opinion to settle the issue. Ryudo preferred Maria's design, but because he didn't want Runa to feel bad that he didn't like her design, he told the girls both designs were good, and he didn't know which one to choose. Ryudo met Maria at the train station on his way home that evening. While they awkwardly waited for the train to arrive, Ryudo asked Maria if she lived close by, and she told him that she and her mother moved to the area after her mother's second divorce. Ryudo was fine with ending the conversation after this, but Maria kept talking and told him why she transferred schools. She said her stepfather used to pay her tuition in her old school, but after the divorce, he stopped, so she picked a more affordable one. The second reason she chose to transfer to their school was because she wanted Runa to be happy. She confessed that she wanted Runa to forgive her for the mean and awful things she said to her in the past, which surprised Ryudo. He looked at her well and realized that she was different from Maria, who tried to hurt her sister a few weeks ago. This realization relieved him because he was sure the sisters would reconcile shortly. The following week, their school had its sports festival and Runa participated in most of the events while Ryudo cheered her from the sidelines. During the borrowed items relay, Runa called Ryudo onto the track, and together they completed the race, winning first place for their class. As they tried to catch their breaths, Runa thanked Ryudo for cheering for her during her games and showed him her paper which asked her to finish the race with the person she liked. Just then, some girls called out to Runa because her mother was around and looking for her. Meanwhile, Maria was in the classroom preparing for the cheerleading event with Akari and the rest of the cheer squad. After dressing up, she and Akari began walking to the field together, and that was when she told Akari that she volunteered for the cheer team because her mother was coming to watch her. Akari thought it was cute that she wanted to show off to her mother, but Maria admitted she was a bit embarrassed. When they arrived at the field, the smile on Maria's face disappeared when she saw Runa talking to their mother. She told Akari she had forgotten something in the classroom and ran off before the girl could ask what it was. Unaware of what happened, their mother asked Runa if she'd seen Maria. She explained that she had come to the festival because Maria told her she was participating in the cheerleading event. This information surprised Runa, as she wasn't aware Maria was participating in any event. When their mother mentioned that she would head back to work soon, Runa asked her to wait while she searched for Maria. Ryudo went with her, so they split up to cover more ground. Ryudo found Maria on the rooftop, but when he informed her that her mother was looking for her, she showed no reaction. Instead, she began talking about how she felt jealous seeing Runa with her mother, and admitted that she didn't want their mother to know they had bad blood. Ryudo tried to convince her to see her mother, but she screamed at him to leave, saying he had no business meddling in her affairs. Ryudo argued that he did because he was her friend and he cared for her. This forced her to admit that she still had feelings for him, and if he kept being nice to her, she would fall harder for him. Unbeknownst to them, Runa had heard her sister's confession, but decided not to make her presence known since she didn't want to complicate things further. A few days after the sports festival, the pamphlet committee met with the teacher and a designer who showed them the printouts of each girl's designs. Like in their previous meeting, the girls preferred their designs, but the teacher said that Maria's design was preferable for the festival. When she asked Ryudo for his opinion, he tried to make it seem like he preferred Runa's design, but Runa knew he was lying and called him out. Embarrassed, he admitted that Maria's design was the better option. On their way home later, Ryudo tried apologizing to Runa for what he did during the meeting, but she didn't want to listen. She told him she'd been doing a lot of thinking lately, which was surprising given that her head was filled with glitter and sparkles. However, after all her thinking, she decided that Maria was a better match for him than she was because they were alike in many ways and their interests and hobbies aligned perfectly as though it had been written in the stars. She then admitted that she overheard their conversation on the rooftop during the sports festival. She asked if it was okay for them to continue dating when she was harboring feelings of jealousy. Before Ryudo could speak, she told him she wouldn't text him for a while and then ran off. Ryudo tried to chase after her but stopped when he realized there was nothing he could say to change her mind. A few days later, Ryudo submitted the final design to the teacher, who approved it. On his way back to the classroom, he spotted Runa talking on the phone. From her manner of speech, he deduced that she was speaking to someone older and wondered who it was. Before he could call out to her, she walked away, leaving him with many questions on his mind. He thought of asking Nicole about it during cleaning duty later that day, but he was scared she'd chew him out for what happened between him and Runa. Suddenly, Nicole turned to face him, but instead of screaming at him, she expressed her disappointment at what had transpired between him and Runa. On his way home, Akarai ran up to him and said there was something urgent she wanted to talk to him about. They went to the nearest burger place, and she revealed that she suspected Runa had a sugar daddy, which shocked Ryudo. She then explained that she saw Runa with an older guy as she was leaving the K-pop merch store. At first, she thought nothing of it but changed her mind when she noticed the rip-off Gucci bag Runa had with her. Akari described the guy as a tall Giga Chad, so Ryudo showed her a picture of Mao and asked if he was the one she saw. She told him he wasn't, stating that the guy she saw was younger and possibly a college student. Ryudo pointed out that a college student wasn't sugar daddy material, but she argued that if he was loaded, he was qualified to be one. Ryudo asked if she truly believed Runa was the type of girl to have a sugar daddy, and she said that Runa was a sweet girl who didn't know how to turn people down when they became pushy. She said she felt compelled to tell him what she saw because she knew things between him and Runa were bad, and she was scared Runa would do something she would regret. Ryudo thanked her for being a concerned friend and told her that he trusted Runa. However, if Runa decided to be with someone else, he was the only person to blame. After leaving the burger place, Ryudo called Sakia and told him he needed help. When the day of the festival arrived, Ryudo invited Sakia to the school to help him determine if Akari's suspicions were true. Walking through the hallway together, they bumped into Akari, who told Ryudo that Sakia was the guy she saw with Runa, which surprised him. Sakuya was also surprised to learn that Ryudo was Runa's boyfriend, so they went to one of the classes to talk. Sakia assured Ryudo that he wasn't involved with Runa, and had never been when Ryudo accused him of being one of her low-life degenerate exes. He said he was Nicole's ex and explained that Runa had come looking for him some days ago because she wanted to talk to him about Nicole. Sakia admitted he wasn't a good boyfriend to Nicole because he broke up with her to mess around with other girls. The worst was that he broke up with her when her parents were divorcing, and ever since then, she changed. Ryudo suggested that Sakia speak to Nicole, but he refused, saying she wouldn't want anything to do with him. Ryudo told him that he wouldn't know for sure if he didn't try and said Nicole might surprise and forgive him if he groveled. Suddenly, Ejichi and Nishina rushed into the classroom and told Ryudo that some guys were bothering Runa and Nicole. Immediately, Ryudo got up and asked Sakia to come with them. When they got outside, the guys were trying to stop the girls from walking away, so Ryudo walked up to them and pulled Runa away. Since Nicole was still there, the guys focused their attention on her, but then Sakia arrived and told them to stay away from his girl. Nicole was surprised to see him, but didn't struggle when he pulled away from the guys. She asked what he was doing there, and he apologized for taking too long, causing the self-proclaimed Amazon to burst into tears. Ryudo and his friends watched as Sakia comforted Nicole, and Ejiki suddenly announced that he wanted to confess his feelings to Akari. His friends were surprised, but because it wasn't right to let a friend do something stupid alone, they'd accompanied him to make his confession. Akari asked what made him think she'd say yes when she knew nothing about him. She questioned his feelings for her and said that a confession was supposed to be something people did to confirm their feelings for each other. As far as she was concerned, a person shouldn't confess their feelings on a whim, because feelings weren't things to be toyed with. Everything she said pierced Ejichi's heart like an arrow, and after she walked away, Runa apologized to him on her behalf. She said Akari was serious about dating and falling in love, but would not date someone she wasn't friends with first. After Runa left, the three boys sat by the wall feeling depressed about their bad luck in love. However, Nishina and Ichiki said that he was fortunate that Runa learned to like him as they began dating. They said his love story was a beacon of hope for all the nerds who couldn't find someone to love them. Suddenly, Ryudo got up and told his friends he would speak to them later because he had to find Runa. He then ran to their classroom to find Runa, and as they stood on the balcony, they talked about Sakia and how Ryudo believed he was her sugar daddy. Runa explained that the bag Akari saw had been given to her by her grandmother, and thanked him for helping Nicole get back with Sakia. Because if he hadn't invited Sakia to help him spy on her, he would have never made up with Nicole. Runa then said that if two people like each other, they should be together because life was too short to be apart. This made Ryudo tell her he wanted his life, however short it may be with her. 2 weeks later, Runa and Ryudo went to the park together, and while they were talking, Runa said she couldn't wait to find out how Nicole's date with Sakia went. She then asked Ryudo how Ejichi was doing because he hadn't been to school since Akari rejected him. Ryudo told her that the once jolly fat man was gaming away his shock of being rejected in extremely freezing conditions. He added that Nishina was also going through something, so things weren't merry. The next day, Runa and Akari talked in class when Nicole walked in and told them that Sakiya had broken up with her again, which surprised them. Ryudo and Nishina happened to be within hearing distance, so they were also surprised by the news. Later at his prep school, Ryudo confronted Sakiya for breaking up with Nicole. Sakiya had explained that he'd done it because he didn't want to be tempted to sleep with her when he knew he was preparing for an exam. Ryudo suggested that he ask Nicole to wait until after his exams before they could get back together, but Sakiya refused. He said nothing good would come from Nicole dating him, and he wanted her to enjoy her high school years. After saying this, Sakiya asked Ryudo how things between him and Runa were going. Ryudo told him that on the surface, they looked like the picture-perfect couple. However, the truth was that their relationship was shaky. He was scared he'd say the wrong thing and hurt her again, so he'd been keeping to himself. On his way home later, Ryudo bumped into Maria, so they walked to their neighborhood together. He told Maria that after that night, he would prefer if they never hung out alone, and she agreed. Maria said she wanted Runa to be happy because when they were kids, Runa always gave her whatever she asked for. After Maria walked away, Ryudo called Runa, but while they talked on the phone, Ryudo heard Maria scream and rushed to see what was wrong. He arrived just as her attacker fled, but thankfully she was unhurt, so he walked her to the nearest guard post. Before leaving her with the guards, he heard her say she'd dropped her earring, but thought nothing of it. As he walked home, he called Runa back, and she told him that she'd informed her mother about what happened to Maria. Ryudo tried to explain why he was with Maria that night, but Runa said he could do that another time. She then asked him to meet her on Saturday before he went to his prep school because she had something important to discuss with him. When Saturday came, Ryudo met Runa at the park and tried to explain why he saw Maria on the night she was attacked, but Runa said she didn't want to know. She then said she wanted to meet with him to tell him that she was breaking up with him. She assured Ryudo that his meeting Maria that night had nothing to do with her decision, as she'd been thinking about doing it for a while. Ryudo thanked her for their time together and tried to act like his heart wasn't breaking into a million pieces. Unfortunately, everything and everyone in the park reminded him of their time together, and before he knew it, he was sobbing like a child. He begged Runa not to break up with him and told her he met Maria to tell her they could no longer be friends. Runa also started crying and said she didn't really want to break up with him, but had done it because she was scared. Ryudo then pulled her to him, and as he hugged her, he said he wanted to experience everything with her, both the good and the bad, because that was what a relationship was about. When they separated, Runa apologized for making him sad, and he told her she wasn't the only one to blame. Suddenly, Ryudo was hit in the back of the head with a toy car, and instead of getting mad at the kid, he and Runa started laughing. As they walked home later, Ryudo told Runa he would no longer help her with her mission to befriend Maria, since he wasn't friends with her anymore. Runa said it didn't matter because she wanted not to become Maria's friend but her sister again. She then told her that she gave Maria the second earring she always wore on her left ear when their parents separated. She had given it to her, hoping that when they reunited, they could wear them together, but she was sure Maria had tossed hers in the trash. Ryudo said Maria had kept it because he remembered her mentioning something about a missing earring on the night she was attacked. He dragged Runa to the place where Maria was attacked, and after searching for a while they found the earring. That was when he told her the reason Maria transferred to their school. Realizing that her sister still cared for her, Runa thanked Ryudo and told him that she knew what to do. The next week, Runa announced in class that Maria was her twin sister, shocking her classmates. A confused Maria pulled Runa outside the class and asked why she had done what she did, so Runa responded by returning her earring. She also showed her the one she had and hugged her as she apologized for not making things right sooner. Maria gladly hugged her back, but Runa's friends interrupted their sweet moment because they wanted to speak to them and learn more about Maria. A few days later, Runa and Ryudo went to a cafe, and Runa told Ryudo she needed his help to parent trap her mom and dad. She said her father still loved her mother, and since her mother had just gotten divorced, it was the perfect time to bring them together and help them rekindle their relationship. The plan was that she and Maria would take their parents to a restaurant on Christmas Eve for a family dinner, without them suspecting anything. Ryudo asked what his role would be during the dinner, and she told him all he had to do was play the perfect boyfriend, because she wanted her dad to meet him, so agreed. The next day at school, everyone received the shock of a lifetime when Ejiti walked into class looking different. The former cholesterol storage was now every girl's wet dream, and when Akari laid eyes on him, she went crazy. She pulled her friends aside and confessed that she digged Ichichi's new look, since he looked like her favorite K-pop idol. Her friends suggested that she ask him out, but she refused and reminded them of how she'd brutally rejected his love confession when he was still a fat, ugly piece of shit. Nicole got tired of watching her annoying display, so she walked away from the group and went to the rooftop where she tried to block Sekiya's contact. However, she was interrupted by Nishina, who tried to riz her up, but failed because he was so bad at it. Nicole told him not to waste his time because she was way out of his league and already had a boyfriend. After she walked away, Nishina remained on the rooftop, unmoving as though he were doing the mannequin challenge. Unknown to him, Ryudo was hidden somewhere on the roof and had heard him get rejected. Ryudo felt bad for his friend, but didn't approach him because he knew he might be embarrassed. A week later, it was Christmas Eve, and Ryudo was in his prep school when it dawned on him that he was meeting Runa's father. Immediately, he panicked, worried he'd say or do something the man wouldn't like. He was still nervous when he met Runa later, but Runa laughed and assured him that her father wasn't the Grinch, so he could relax. When they arrived at the restaurant, Maria and her mother were already waiting. Their mother was surprised to see them and asked how they knew they were there. Runa explained that she wanted to spend Christmas Eve with her family, prompting their mother to ask if their father was also coming. Maria said that he was and apologized for not informing her, saying that she knew she wouldn't have come if she had known. For the sake of her girls, the woman agreed to stay and have dinner with their father, even though he was the last person she wanted to see. Just then, their father arrived, but he wasn't alone, as he had brought a woman he introduced to the group as his fiancée. Runa couldn't believe her father had kept his relationship a secret and was even getting married. She started crying because she realized that her wish would never come true, so Ryudo, Maria, and their mother escorted her out of the restaurant. Ryudo promised to get Runa home safely, so Maria and their mother bid them goodnight and left. True to his word, Ryudo took Runa home, but when he tried to leave, she pulled on his jacket and begged him not to leave her alone. Ryudo felt conflicted because he didn't think it was wise for them to be alone since his hormones were on the fritz, but on the other hand, he didn't want Runa to be sad. Suddenly, Runa stood up and leaned into him, causing him to move back and accidentally switch off the lights. Thinking she was finally ready to do the deed, he hugged her tight but realized she was burning up. He then took her temperature, and after confirming that she had a fever, he rushed her to her bedroom and began taking care of her. Meanwhile, Nicole had just clocked out of work, but instead of heading home, she ran in the opposite direction and went to find Sekiya at the prep school. When she saw him, she told him that she would wait until after his exams and then left. However, Sekiya caught up with her in the streets and said she couldn't just walk away without hearing his opinion. Nicole apologized, but he ignored her apology and wrapped his scarf around her neck because it was snowing, causing her to tear up. The next day, Runa woke up feeling better, and as she drank coffee with Ryudo, she told him she was happy she got to spend Christmas morning with him. They then exchanged presents, and Runa gave Ryudo a bunch of charms she'd bought at the shrine with Nicole. When it was Ryudo's turn, he dressed up as Santa and gave her earrings that matched the ring he got her for their anniversary. Runa thanked him for the gift and told him that she finally felt she could accept her father's relationship because he deserved to be as happy as her. Later, Runa called Nicole and the two talked about Ryudo and how he spent the night caring for Runa. Runa admitted that she was sad that Ryudo didn't try to put moves on her the previous day. Nicole reminded her she was sick and said that if Ryudo had done anything with her in that state, he ought to change his first name to Diddy. Runa expressed that she wanted to get more intimate with Ryudo, and Nicole told her it was because she was now truly in love with him. This made her happy because that feeling of love was another thing she shared with Ryudo first. A few days later, Runa convinced Ryudo to go to a print cafe with her, and after she changed into a maid's outfit, they got into the photo booth. While their picture was being taken, Ryudo pointed out that Runa seemed different, and she told him it was because she wanted him to get excited since she was finally ready to roll in the hay with him. Ryudo was so shocked by her response that he stared at her with his mouth wide open, so Runa pecked his cheeks. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to check out our channel to see if your favorite anime has been recapped.